Hi and welcome to another gaming video, and in today's video, well, I want to talk about 2023 and my gaming sort of journey in that year. It's been a bit of a whirlwind year, and I've had lots of consoles, bought consoles, sold consoles, and really just had a bit of an epic year for gaming in 2023. So this is going to be a bit of a recap video for anyone who is sort of joined my channel later in the year or just would like to know what I've been up to for 2023 and maybe what's going to happen for this channel and my gaming in 2024. So let's start. At the end of 2022, I owned a PSP, a Nintendo DSi LL, which is a Japanese DSi XL, a Game Boy Macro, which I made myself, a Nintendo 3DS, and as a home console, a PlayStation 2, which I actually bought for my wife, but it's a fantastic console. So that was the collection of consoles I owned at the end of 2022. Beginning in January 2023, my oldest bought a Game Boy Pocket, so following in my footsteps of like in older consoles. He bought it for one game, and even almost a year round, he still only has one game for it, and that is Tetris, because he is a massive Tetris fan. But the Game Boy Pocket is his. I did use it in some of my videos, and it is a fantastic little console. February, well, saw me buy my second PlayStation Vita. I've always been a big fan of the PS Vita, and I had one a few years back, an original model. So this time when I was looking for a PS Vita, I decided to buy a slim model. A great choice. It's obviously a bit smaller than the original Vita. It has a USB charging port. It doesn't have an OLED screen, but I really couldn't tell much of a difference, and it became one of my biggest consoles for 2023 in terms of gaming. Absolutely superb machine, very underrated in the games world. We fast forward to April of 2023, and it saw me dip back personally into the Game Boy world. I bought a Game Boy Advance SP, so I wanted to play both platforms, sort of Game Boy Color, as well as the Game Boy Advance games, but I didn't want to go for an original Game Boy Advance. I wanted something with a bit of a backlight or a bit of some sort of light, which would mean playing Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games would be better than if I was playing them on Game Boy Color or original Game Boy Advance. And I bought this Game Boy Advance SP. Great little console. I was never really a big fan of the Game Boy Advance platform. I think I really bought this SP more to play Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. I did that for a little while. Great little console. Did play a few Game Boy Advance games on it. But like I said, it's not a platform I've really gotten into. I always felt that the Game Boy Advance was kind of tagged on the end of the Game Boy market as a kind of a step and gap towards the DS. So by April 2023, I had in my collection, and I'd slimmed down my collection. I had a DSi LL still, my 3DS still, and then I had a PlayStation Vita and a Game Boy Advance SP. Everything else, like the PSP and the Game Boy Macro, had gone by this point. I just decided to slim down. I thought my DSi could play DS and DSi games. I kept my 3DS so I could play 3DS games. The Vita could play Vita and some PSP games, well, via the store. And then obviously the Game Boy Advance SP for playing Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. So those four consoles could play a lot more than just four machines. Then I decided I was going to buy an original DS. Now, I bought two very, very broken ones, and you may have seen these in videos. They were smashed to pieces, kind of as a restore project, which, well, it kind of fell flat on its face. One of them had a broken hinge but worked fine. Decided not to do anything with that in the end. The silver one I bought, which had a almost completely demolished casing, I got it back into some sort of working order, but I didn't want to spend too much on it. So I decided that I was going to make a Game Boy Macro XL and bodge it together as quickly and as roughly as I could. May saw me take on one of my biggest projects ever. I bought an original Game Boy, a DMG model. It worked. I didn't know it would work when I bought it, so I just bought it as a... Well, it said it had a few issues, and really it was just loose battery contacts, but it was a nasty brown colour. So I decided to go down the retro bright route, and I hydrogen peroxided the case, brought it up to fantastic condition, replaced the battery contacts, got a new screen lens. Really did make this console look superb, and it was fantastic. But it was still a Game Boy, and as much as it's got great heritage and it did a lot for handheld gaming, it was an awful console. So as a fan of Japanese consoles, I already owned a DSi LL. I decided I would go and buy a Japanese DSi, just so I had one of each in the same market. That was June time. July, well, that saw my son move back into the Switch platform. He bought an OLED Switch, and it's a console I showed very little interest in. I did a few YouTube videos on it, just for video purposes, but at the time, the Switch platform, I really wasn't really that interested in it. In July, I bought some untested DS consoles as a repair project. Yet again, it wasn't my greatest purchase. I thought that they would just be listed as untested, and they would actually work or have minor issues, but it turned out that some of them would not charge, and there was some board issues with them. So I just found out what the issues were, cut my losses with that one. July also saw me buy a new 3DS XL, the absolute creme de la creme of 3DS platform. It's an XL device. It can play 3DS games, new 3DS games, DSi games, DS games. It was absolutely superb. August saw our family enter the Switch. So we already had the OLED Switch from my son, but we decided to get a regular Switch, a V2 Switch actually, for the family. And yet again, I still showed very little interest in it. In September, I made one of my big mistakes, and I sold my DSi LL. It was an instant wrong decision. The minute I packaged it up and off it went, I regretted it. So in October, I decided to pick up another one. So I've got another one. It's in my collection, and this was my go-to DS. Great size. I just loved the whole XL experience on a DS. October also saw me leave the 3DS platform. I previously sold my 3DS when I got my new 3DS XL, but then I went off and sold that as well because I never used it. I bought it on a whim, I think, and it was just one of those consoles. I'm not a big fan of the 3DS side of things. DS games, fantastic, and I love playing DS games on the new 3DS XL, but it was an expensive console, and it just sat on my shelf, really not used that much. So then we move up into November, and that saw me enter the Switch market for myself. I bought a Switch Lite, and oh my days, what an amazing little console it is. I've now actually fallen in love with the whole Switch platform. A bad move, because I've just gone and got lots of Switch games off of the eShop that are on sale. And finally, years after really putting the Switch down, I can see that it is a superb console, and I do feel a little bit guilty because my Vita and my DSi LL have now sat on the shelf gathering dust, but the Switch Lite is a superb console, and for the first time in a very long time, I have become a modern gamer with a console that is current, and I can go in a shop and buy games, and there's a relevant eShop that I can go and download games from. So the end of 2023 sees me personally owning a DSi LL, a PS Vita, and a Switch Lite, and then the family has got a PS2, a Switch OLED, and my son's Game Boy Pocket. We've got lots of other consoles in the house, but I tend to look at this as my personal journey and the consoles that I own. So as we go into 2024, you will still see some 3DS videos, because the way I shoot my videos, I don't always upload them in the right order, or I might shoot 3 that I think would go ahead of some of those. So while I don't own a 3DS anymore, and I haven't done for a while, there will be some videos going into 2024 with the 3DS, but I do obviously own a DS and a Vita and a Switch. And that will be the dominant focus for this channel, but who knows what direction I will go in 2024, and who knows this time next year what consoles I will own. I can assure you they will be portable because I'm a big fan of portable consoles, hence the reason I do this channel. I hope you like that little sort of roundup. I've gone through, I think I worked out that I bought 12 consoles personally myself, plus the 2 that my sons had, and I am now down to 3 that I personally own. And well, we count the PS2 as my wife's, but I do use it quite a bit. And so there you go. So that is my roundup of 2023 from my side of gaming. I am firmly in love with my Switch Lite and all the games that you can get for it. You'll still see lots of videos on different platforms, especially the Vita and the DSi LL that I've got. So there'll be DS games and Vita games and all sorts of things. Obviously, Switch videos are what I'm into at the minute. But like I said, who knows what 2024 is going to bring. Maybe I will get some different consoles in and, well, we'll shoot some videos on then. So that's a roundup of 2023. I will see you in 2024. Have a good Christmas. Hopefully you'll get something gaming related. I'm hoping to myself. And I will see you in the new year. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy.